Monday Night Wars podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Monday Night Wars. It is June. No, it's not June.
Yeah, that's June.
It's June? Okay. I get all these J months confused. I also get the M months confused. There's a lot of them. Anyways, it's June 9th, 1997, and we are live with WCW Nitro at the Fleet Center, and as promised by Lee Marshall, Beantown, Boston, Massachusetts. I am Scott. With me, as always, is Joseph Rojas. Joseph, how are you this fine June 9th, 1997? Because that is when we are recording this, not weeks prior.
Roll Tide.
Sorry.
Got a star. Yeah, where's my camera? There it is. Starry. Proud sponsor of the podcast.
Yeah. Whoa. I don't think you actually say that. I think, you know, who are they? Are they Pepsi? Who does
Pepsi?
Coke?
Yeah, Pepsi owns. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll get you your money, but if you don't get the president on the phone, you're gonna have to answer to the Pepsi Cola Company of America.
See, I thought you were gonna go with Taste of a New Generation.
Anyways, the Pepsi Cola Corporation is in no way affiliated with this podcast, but if they'd like to be sponsors, please call us. We'll shill.
Yeah.
I'm also a shareholder, if that counts at all. So just know Pepsi Cola of America. We got the WCW though, and we got a promo to hype the Rod Man and Hollywood Hogan. Yeah, they're coming to bash at the beat. And I don't know how I feel about that. On one hand, I feel like Rodman is a good fit.
Yeah.
If you're gonna bring a basketball player into the wrestling. But I just know how WCW doing things right now, and I'm not convinced. After that, though, we got Tony, who says Hollywood Hogan is in the building. Lex Luger is also in the building. The Outsiders are going to be in a main event against Roddy Piper and Ric Flair. Let me check my notes real fast. Oh, okay. I wanted to see the finish of that match. And I was like, oh, all right. But of course, never clean. Yeah. Anyways, we got a pay-per-view coming up. This is the Go Home show for Nitro. So it's gotta be a banger. Right? I guess we'll see. We start with a limo pulling up, Miss Elizabeth getting out. The Macho Man he tries to step out, and DDP just kind of shut the door on him. And I kind of enjoyed this. What'd you make of this?
Well, he didn't just shut the door on him. So Mach apparently is in this limo backstage, and DDP runs over to confront him. Mach won't come out now, seeing DDP. And DDP starts kicking the window and finally kicks it open in a potentially really stupid spot. Just ask Goldberg or CM Punk. I'm not actually joking. Don't fuck with glass. Liz hits DDP with the door, and Mach's limo drives off, and DDP is hurt. It's very quick. It's very simple, but I liked it. I like the Mach DDP storyline, giving it a B.
Yeah, minus the glass. Mm-hmm. As Joseph's reference, Goldberg almost dies.
Yes.
And we'll get to that because it gonna happen on the pod.
Mm-hmm.
After that, though, we get kind of a hot match. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna start with Psychosis, my boy, La Parka, Silver King, okay, versus Ultimo Dragon.
Oof.
Super Callow,
Ooh.
and your favorite. I'm talking to the pod in general, the podverse. Your favorite, Juventud Guadalajara. I rev that bad boy harder than your neighbor does his car during our podcasts. Anyways, tell me about this match, which they don't got time for. So I took the time, and it was like 8 minutes.
So 2 weeks ago, we had a very similar
rough time.
match. We with a bunch of guys. It's a fun opener. Like, we get controlled chaos, and these kinds of matches are very fun, even with little storyline. I will say I prefer this week's lineup as opposed to the one we got 2 weeks ago. Ultimo ultimately wins with a Dragon Sleeper, and I gave this a B.
Well, all right. After that, we go to Mean Gene, who's got Flexi Lexi in the house, and Flexi Lexi ready to wrestle. He in his gear. He says, let's do this. Apparently, we got a match for Bash at the Beach between Hogan, Rodman, Flexi Lexi, and Giant, which seems dumb as hell for Hulk Hogan to agree to that. Because, like, they gonna kill you, bro. Rodman don't know how to wrestle. What are you doing? Anyways, Lex says he and the Giant signed a contract. They're ready to go. All the other two have to do is come in and sign it. And what do you make of this?
Well, he also mentions that Giant is in Germany visiting Ronnie, presumably. Lex also announces that J.J. Dillon has decided that Hulk Hogan will be forced to wrestle Lex tonight because Hogan has not defended his title since February. There is no way this will have a good payoff, but here we go. I gave it a C.
But, this might be kind of why WCW winning. Because this should be on the pay-per-view. And it's free tonight.
Well,
So
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, it's not worth the price of admission. But in theory, it's free tonight. And and I got to say again, because I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, because when we started this podcast, I was very supportive of this, right? They've got pay-per-view quality matches on a normal Monday night. That's crazy. That was good when you were trying to bring the people in, right? When you wanted to give people a reason to switch off. You've won.
Yeah.
You've won. Now you got to make money.
Yeah.
And now when you got to make money, you got to keep making the money.
Yeah.
And that's the part they're not so good at.
Yeah.
That's the part they've got problems with. Anyways, after that, we got Mike Tenay. He wants to talk to Roddy Piper and Ric Flair. Because they're rolling up and they got a white limousine. NWO's got black, they got white. Man, they're thinking about everything in this story. They've got all of the angles covered. Tell me about this interview, which is pretty short.
Yeah. It was recorded earlier in the night. We see that it's daytime when they have this interview. Piper says they have no infighting and then compares themselves to dinosaurs for a minute, because that's kind of been the line the NWO has been going with against them. Flair says with no Piper, Hall and Nash had their way, but no more because Piper is here. This is short, it's simple. Like you said, not a whole lot goes on. I'm giving it a C. It's fine.
They make a Celtics reference, and I was like, Flair knows his audience.
Yeah.
He says Rowdy and Flair are going to be like Bird and Orr, and I was like, all right, okay, all right.
Yeah.
After that, we got a match.
Played together.
Well, they're good. They were good, though. I think that's the point.
Yeah.
As you know, Ric Flair makes a lot of sports references that don't entirely make sense, but I appreciate the effort.
Yeah.
He's playing it up to the crowd, right? In Beantown. I'm not going to let that go. Anyways, we got a match. We got Chris Jericho versus Alex Wright, which I'm hot about. I'm hot about it. About 840 on this one. Tell me.
Like you said, we have a fun low card match, and it sees Alex Wright getting a mini push as he wins with rope assist. Not a lot to write home about with it, frankly. I think it's the first time we've seen Chris Jericho in quite some time. So that's kind of cool. But Alex Wright, like, he had a big spot, the last couple weeks, and now he's getting another big decisive win. So he's kind of things are looking up for him. So that's cool. Gave it a B.
Yeah, Mike Tenay actually does make reference to the fact that not Joseph, you've been right here. But Jericho has been in Japan, so that explains his absence. Yeah, and I kind of wish they would do something with Alex, right? So I'm kind of excited he's getting a push. I hope something comes of it. Oh, no. But after that, we got some excitement. Circle your calendars, everybody. This is a momentous day. We got a women's match on WCW, and it's for the championship. It's Akira Hokuto, which was she the women's? Did she win the title?
Yeah,
Like, did we see her do that?
Yeah, she's the one who won it.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure like this didn't happen over in Japan because I was like, this is ridiculous. Versus Malia Hosaka. Because they have to import all of their female wrestlers because they just got Medusa.
Yeah.
Because that's all they got. And they are completely opposed to doing anything with her. So we've got to bring in wrestlers from Japan.
Right.
That's the only way we can do this. But anyways, tell me about this 2-minute match. It's not even 2 minutes. It's a less. Wow.
Hosaka has the most epic and dark theme music, and then she comes out all bubbly and cute. The next, Akira Hokuto comes out with a vibrant and colorful theme while being dark and mysterious. So clearly they messed up the music for who comes out when and just didn't even bother to care, even remotely. That's how little they think of their women's division. Hokuto wins fairly easily with a brainbuster, and she attacks Hosaka post-match, and Medusa runs in and hits multiple German suplexes on Hokuto. Also, Shivani offhandedly tells us offhandedly tells us that the Luger and Hogan match will not be for the title later tonight. Cool. So we have spent the majority of hour number 1 just lying to the audience.
Oh, let me change the channel.
I mean, that's what they did. For the majority of this hour, they have lied to the audience and told them repeatedly it's for the title. It's how they announced it. It's how they've continued to hype it up. And now they're telling us, oh, no, it's actually not for the title. Awesome. Good job. This match is fine for what it is. I'm giving it a C.
Apparently, we're going to have a women's match this weekend. Or at the pay-per-view, because we got a pay-per-view coming up as a go-home show. We've got Medusa, and she vows to win the women's title at Great American Bash. And I don't think of a better place for the American wrestler to defeat the Japanese wrestler for the women's title than the Great American Bash. You heard it here first. I'm convinced Medusa is going to win that title because it would make sense.
Especially when if Medusa loses this match, she can no longer wrestle as per the stipulation that she agreed to with Sonny Ono 2 weeks ago. So Great American Bash makes perfect sense for her to win this title. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they couldn't have her lose. That wouldn't make sense from a story standpoint.
Correct.
And I also, and then on a personal level, I kind of don't know why they would do that to a woman that basically destroyed her chances of going back to the other promotion for this one. But, that's just me. We got Mean Gene, and he's talking to the Steiner brothers. And they think they're the best tag team around, and they don't mind showing it, even if that means they got to beat up the Harlem Heat. I liked this. What do you think, Joseph?
Well, then the Harlem Heat come out too, and they say, well, we should be number 1 contenders. And Scott Steiner says, well, we can do it tonight. And then they all just start swinging, and I loved it. Gave it a B. I'm enjoying what they're doing with these 2 tag teams.
We've got a story. And a story that doesn't revolve around the NWO just winning all the time. I'm interested. Next up, we've got a match that I'm really excited about. I'm really excited to tell people about it because we've got Steve Mongo McMichael versus Conan. And you might be asking yourself, Scott, how are you excited about a Steve Mongo McMichael versus Conan match. And I'll tell you because it don't happen. Kevin Green come out and attack Steve Mongo McMichael. And it's fun because we like Kevin Green.
It is. They
Anything
both.
you
They
want to add, or should we go on?
Well, no, there's more to this. So they both get taken in the back, and
Okay.
we go to the ring, and Conan is knocked out with a broken broom laying next to him. This is alluding to Hugh Morris returning last week's favor. This obviously gets called for a no contest, and funny enough, Conan and Hugh Morris is my favorite non-DDP and Macho Man Randy Savage storyline going on right now in WCW. Gave it a B. I enjoyed it.
You know, I have that in my notes, but I didn't have my peepers on, so I didn't see it.
Gotta have
That's a
peepers
good
on,
point.
bro.
But you're not wrong, which is kind of the wild thing that it's the most story we have
Mhm.
of anything that isn't NWO. It's like we got a story. I'm interested. We are simple wrestling fans. It is not hard. You just tell us a dumb story and you keep it going.
Yeah.
We're in.
Yeah.
That's all we really need. After that, something I'm not really all that in for. Cause we got that non-title match.
Mhm.
We got Lex Luger versus Hollywood Hogan, which I was very excited about. I was flipping over from WWF to watch it, and now that I find out it's a non-title match, I don't know if I'm that excited about it. I'm also not all that excited about it when I find out that it's less than 3 minutes, because I think I know what's gonna happen. Tell me about it, Joseph.
Well, first Bischoff and Hogan come to the ring because they are under the guise that they're not having a match. And Bischoff, he tells JJ Dillon, "Get this, Scott. You're gonna love this. You are gonna love this the most."
Mhm.
Okay, so he gets
Okay.
mine, right?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
like sometimes Bischoff, you just can't even fathom how he thinks of this stuff. You're just like, you're
Tell me.
hanging on every.
I gotta know.
You know what I mean? And he goes, get this. He goes,
Tell
fight
me.
me.
Oh. Yeah.
Hogan
That's
says hello to all his
that's a line.
NWOites and says that Lex Luger is out of shape, which is honestly objectively funny. I actually quite like that. I thought that was good. And he says that he won't bore anyone with a mat. That joke writes itself. He then tells us no match, just him posing. He poses and Luger appears behind him. Hogan tells him to leave him alone, and Luger just takes this until he hits both Bischoff and Hogan. Like they're just going in on him. And he just sits there taking it. And then finally just hits Bischoff and Hogan. And Randy Anderson runs in and calls for the bell. So apparently we are having a match. Okay. The NWO comes out to support Hogan and they assuredly will not get involved with this. Luger, of course, has to fight them off. He racks Hogan and wins before the NWO attack him. Hogan then hits multiple leg drops, like 8 of them, and Hogan and Bischoff cuddle together on the mat and taunt Luger. So if this is true, in 1 week, you undermined the only momentum J.J. Dillon had as an authority and lied to your audience about a title match for an hour. Wild. This is insane. And here's the thing. This is live, so speculation coming. You cannot convince me that the plan wasn't to have a title match, potentially have Luger even win the title match, because you said on live TV it's a title match. You had Mean Gene say that. And then Hogan went, "That don't work for me, brother." So Luger does win. He does technically get a win, but he does not get the title. And then shenanigans ensue. I gave this an F. I hated it.
First of all, I will give one positive note before I contribute to your conspiracy theory. The first leg drop Hogan drops, the fireworks go off like as he's doing it, and that was kind of hot. Like, I don't know if they timed, like if the guy was just waiting with the button, but it worked. I was like, okay, all right. And then he does about 137 more, and I'm like, all right, bro, we get it. But I'm gonna add to your conspiracy theory here, because I'm just gonna say that Lex Luger win this title in just a few months. like 2 months, 2, 3 months, in a very similar fashion. I'm just saying it's kind of an iconic it's just kind of an iconic moment. I'm sure you see it. I can see it in my head. I can see Luger racking Hogan to win the title. It's a thing. It happens. It's a moment. I'm gonna be hot for it because it's like, oh my God, they finally did something. And it happens, and it's like, but this was that match.
Right?
So
Right?
yeah, they've probably spent months. It's probably another situation like when they tried to turn Hogan heel, and it took like months of Bischoff kind of like try to talk him into it, and then
Mhm.
and Hogan really only got on board once he saw how it was going off, and he wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
This is probably another thing where Bischoff's been like, okay, here's the plan. Lex is going to win the title, and then like day of, Hogan's like, that don't work for me, brother.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hogan came in with the intent of doing it. He's like, creative control, homie, you can't do it.
Which
got the title.
for his admission, he never once used that.
Never.
No.
Then why would you put it in your contract? All right. Anyways, like I said, we got the fireworks because we got hour number 2. And then we've got Mean Gene out with the impotent J.J. Dillon to talk about the assault he got from the Macho Man, and that he's gonna find the Macho Man or something. And I just kind of don't care because none of it matters. Like,
Yeah.
what are they doing with this? Tell me.
Well, he says that he's going to level a $50,000 fine for Savage, which in today's money does not sound like a lot, but in 97, that's a healthy chunk of change for sure.
Mhm.
He won't suspend him, however, so he can still face Diamond Dallas Page at the pay-per-view. And we hear from the crowd, "Oh, yeah, over here. I got $100,000 that says 50,000 for last week, 50,000 for this week. When I come down there and do it again." And then DDP's music hits, and DDP calls Savage a big mouth and a tough guy. He says he tried talking to Savage earlier, but Mach didn't have the time. Well, Mach has the time now, and he thinks this is the place, and he challenges Savage right now. And Savage says, "That was the dumbest move you've ever made. Your time has ended right now." And then Mach heads down to the ring, and the two men brawl going into commercial. So, yes, what they're doing with JJ Dillon's stupid, but I still loved Mach and DDP, so I'm giving that a B.
Yeah. We like Mach and DDP. It's good. We
Yeah.
got some story. Joseph, my God. We got some story on Nitro. We got some story on Nitro.
Yeah.
I'm liking it. I'm liking this episode so far. Minus the bullshit about the title.
Yeah.
But
Or,
we got some story on Nitro.
or,
I also
or, but, because this is the right program.
Oh, tell me. Okay. Yeah,
Well,
it is.
Yeah. I mean, you said but, so I was just correcting it.
Oh,
It's the right program.
well, but I went to the inflation calculator
Okay.
because I wanted to look it up.
Yeah, you had to know.
$50,000, 1997 is almost $100,000 today. It's $99,936, almost 100% increase. So yeah, $100,000 fine, pretty big,
Yeah.
pretty big, but not as big as Lee Marshall.
Nothing's as big as Lee Marshall.
No, a titan
Yeah.
in broadcasting, and he is live on the 1-800-COLLECT Road Report, and he's in Chicago. And Chicago is known for a great many things. Is it not, Joseph?
It is. It says he's having a party in Sweet Home, Chicago. Great song. It says it's the home of a pretty good basketball team, apparently. He tells us it's the home of Chicago blues masters like Muddy Waters, the home of deep dish pizza, the home of cheeseburgers, and the Billy Goat. He says Chicago is also the home of TV journalists with integrity and backbone. They'd rather quit their jobs than have their product compromised by some self-serving tabloid hack. In fact, when local TV journalists found out that Bobby Heenan was coming over, 16 of them, including Jerry Springer, resigned. They call the wind the hawk and the hot air the weasel. He actually shouts this. The journalism line is a dig at somebody. Might be Howard Stern, but he does name drop Jerry Springer, so I'm not really sure. But regardless, gets an A+.
I mean, Ted Turner in broadcasting, although he's not Chicago. I don't know.
Yeah, he's Atlanta-based.
Oh, wait, it's WCW. This is WCW. They would dig it, Ted. I don't know. Anyways, all that to say, I like deep dish pizza. I think it's unfair. People always do this. They always say, do you like New York style or Chicago style better? And I say to them that you cannot compare the two. They're completely different things.
Yeah, I agree. Also, you can like them both.
And I like them both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like them both for what they are.
It is
And,
literally
yeah.
when people say, are you Star Trek or Star Wars? There's no comparison. You can like them both, people. It's okay.
But it's Star Trek.
Yeah, absolutely. Star Trek's better.
Yeah.
I like Star Wars.
And I used to be a Star Wars. Oh, I used to be the biggest Star Wars guy, as you know, because I gifted your nephew my entire figurine collection, of which it filled a giant box. But Star Wars has, and you can bleep me here. You can give me a woo. Star Wars has
stuff
the bed, and Star Trek. To be fair, Star Trek is trying too.
Yes,
but it hasn't gone, I think, as poorly as the Star Wars stuff has. Although some of the Star Wars show is pretty good. Andor pretty good. I like the Pedro Pascal one, the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff going on down. Yeah, on the old video scope, as the Macho Man would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. After that, though, we got the match we've all been waiting for, which does have a story. It is a story match. We got Dean Malenko versus Jeff Jarrett for the U.S. Heavyweight Championship. They've been going back and forth about this. Jeff Jarrett wanted to rematch because he thought he was wronged in his loss, and Dean Malenko said, "All right, I'll give it to you." What a competitor from the Iceman. 11 minutes, like 15 seconds. Yeah, go for it.
So here's the thing.
I don't know. They don't time him. I've just been stopwatching this.
Yeah, and we appreciate it. We appreciate it. Here's the thing about this. This match was supposed to be at the pay-per-view. They told us it was at the pay-per-view. They spent weeks letting us know it was at the pay-per-view. It's not a pay-per-view. What are we paying for pay-per-view for? Anyways, Deborah comes out later in this match, not with Jeff Jarrett at the time. And then she at some point gets on the steps for reasons. I don't know. This is good, though. This is a good match between both of them, and it sees the return of Scott. You got to get your peepers for this one. Do you see who that is? Who's returning?
It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to read things when I do this. So, is it Eduardo?
It is Eduardo Guerrero. Guerrero was previously injured in a match with Malenko. And I don't think it was Malenko's fault or anything, but that they're storyline-wise making it about that. He shows up arm in sling and gets on the top rope, and he removes the sling to show us he is no longer hurt and hits the frog splash on Malenko. The ref is distracted and sees none of this. We finally have the Eddie heel turn. From this point on, we will have variations of the Eddie we know and love. He finally has some Latino heat, even though he isn't using that phrase yet and will not use it for quite a few years. But this is where we can start to be excited to see Eddie, and he is no longer Eduardo Guerrero. Jarrett has no idea what happened, and he locks in the figure four for the win, because why not take advantage of this? Deborah makes no sense in this and literally tries to steal screen time with the whole steps thing, which is amazing in how vain it is. However, this match has multiple storylines running through it, and we get Eddie. So I'm giving it a B+.
You know, while you were saying that, and you reminded me that this was supposed to be a pay-per-view match, I was like, yeah, that's right. what are they even doing at the pay-per-view? So I went and looked at the card, and I was like, oh my God. We'll talk about it next week. Good Lord. We'll talk about it on the Patreon. Wow.
$2
What
a
are they
month.
doing? Yeah. I mean, I get kind of yelly about the WCW ones if you guys want to tune in. The
Yeah, he
WWF ones
does.
have been all right lately. WCW still not. No.
Mhm.
Upsetting to me. Anyways, Mean Gene has got Jimmy Hart because we need this angle to continue forever.
Yeah.
And this is now we get to find out what Chris Benoit's next test will be. And now it's Ming. Because he had Barbarian already. So it's just like, all right, tell me about it, Joseph.
Well, he tells us, last week we found out that he was gonna have a second test after Barbarian, which we didn't know he was gonna have a second test. And that test, like you mentioned, is Ming at the pay-per-view. Can't wait for that match. And a death match. It's absolutely a death match, and not at all a regular match where maybe they wrestle outside of the ring for a bit. Anyways, so we know this, but he also said last week that they will have a third. Oh, sorry. Let me get the there we go. Let me get the third one up there. Third and final step to face Kevin Sullivan. And do you want to know who the third and final step to face Kevin Sullivan is?
I can barely contain my excitement to know.
It's Kevin Sullivan.
But is it like NWO Sting Kevin Sullivan?
I don't know. They've been saying it's the third and final step to face Sullivan, and the third and final step to face Sullivan is Sullivan. So do you like wrestle him and then the bell rings when the win happens and then you just immediately wrestle him again? Who knows? They have no idea what they're doing. Sullivan is from Boston and he thanks his people. He challenges Benoit, who runs out, attacks him, and I hate this. I'm giving it an F.
Just stop. Just stop. Also, I feel like tonight, if you were gonna end this, you should end it tonight because you're in Kevin Sullivan's hometown. Like, just have him and Benoit go at it in Boston and finish it. I mean, to be fair, they finished it 9,476 times already.
Mm-hmm.
But just finish it now. Please be done with this. It's sad all around for everybody involved. And I want it to stop. After that, they got NWO stuffed animals. That's kind of cool. I like it. Get a teddy bear for $20. Buy it.
You can find those pretty easily on eBay.
I'm gonna go look. But not right now because we got a podcast to do. After that, I did notice after that they come back from a break and they just start zooming in on a bunch of anti-WWF signs. And I was like, okay, all right. So they're so like, I get it. It's a rivalry, but at the same time, it's like they're so like personal about it or petty about it. And I don't feel like WWF is the same way. They make jabs here and there for sure. And WWF had its moments with the, billionaire
WWF
Ted stuff.
was petty. Now they're no longer
Yes.
that way. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They make jabs here and there, but they're clever. And I was just like, I get it. I get the rivalry, but like, just be like clever, bros. Come on.
Well, honestly, it's literally like WCW and AEW are like the exact same thing because that's what happened too with AEW. Like both companies were taking jabs at each other, and now WWE doesn't take jabs at AEW like hardly at all. And AEW, like at least once a week, is doing it. And it's like, fuck, dude, like get over it. Just worry about your product. Nobody cares.
What I do care about is this main event, though, because we got Scott Hall and Kevin Nash working champions
Mm-hmm.
versus Rowdy Roddy Piper and Ric Flair. And is this for the titles? I don't think it is.
No, it is.
Is it?
Mhm.
It's for the titles. Tell me about it.
Wasn't this supposed to happen at the pay-per-view?
I don't know anymore. Also,
No,
it's
it
like 4
was.
minutes.
It was. And then we get a DQ. Yay. We have the Horseman and Kevin Green, who is but isn't a horseman, and the Steiners and Harlem Heat and Mortis and Wrath and Glacier and Sullivan and Benoit and the Dungeon of Doom and Mach and DDP and just everyone fighting for reasons.
We got to pull apart.
And then Hogan comes out and he starts swinging his title when Sting comes down from Raptors and then just sort of points his bat at the NWO. And then after forever, he fights a couple of the members of the NWO and he hooks himself and DDP to a harness and they leave. Now, this shot of them leaving is an iconic shot in WCW history. And I have vivid memories of it being really cool. And then I watched it and I went, this is not cool at all because this is like mayhem. And by the way, at the pay-per-view, we're going to have this match again. So we advertised it for the pay-per-view. And then we decided to do it the week before the pay-per-view. And then we made it a DQ so we could still do it at the pay-per-view. And this is, what's the point of this? It gets a D.
So we can have a pull apart because Eric Bischoff did a survey and he found out that people like pull aparts. This is real. I think I've said it on the podcast before, but he talks about it, that he did some kind of study and he asked, what do people like? And they really like pull aparts. And that's why WCW seems to end just every go home show with a wild pull apart, which I do enjoy a good pull apart. I'm not going to say I don't, but again, they just keep doing the same stuff over and over again. We've seen Sting drop from the rafters and threaten people a bunch of times now.
Yeah.
I guess the taking DDP with him is a good thing, and thank God they didn't remove any safety features from that harness when they took them both up. Because that would be something that you probably don't want to do. You probably don't want to modify a harness to
definitely don't want to do that
to get rid of safety features. Sounds dangerous. And not advisable.
Yeah, probably a bad idea. Yeah,
absolutely bad. But that does it. That does it for WCW, and we drive across the street. They're actually pretty close together. WCW in Massachusetts and Raw in Hartford, Connecticut. There comes a time where WCW is basically just following Raw everywhere, and like they'll do the venue like the week after and stuff. It's actually, if I recall, the night after. Speaking of Owen Hart's death, that's obviously the reference we're making about not removing safety features from harnesses, because that's what they do. If I'm remembering it correctly, that Monday, good point. That Monday, Bret Hart is in WCW at that point. Bret Hart wrestles in the arena. They're in the arena that Owen died in on Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah. He and Benoit, because he and Benoit have a match for Owen. They do a match for Owen, which is very emotional.
Yeah.
And it's in the same. If I'm remembering it correctly, it's in the same arena where Owen had died like less than 24 hours prior.
Cool.
Wow. Anyways, Raw, June 9th, 1997. Let's try to
how we gonna pull this one out of the freaking depths of disparity you just gave us?
A little bit more positive. Let's make it a little bit more positive. Well, we got some fun stuff going on.
Okay.
We just had a pay-per-view.
Okay.
They recap some of the pay-per-view for us, which we are not going to tell you because you got to listen to the Patreon if you want to hear about the pay-per-view. So we got Vince and we got Jim and we got the Legion of Doom. Am I doing this right? Am I right again? Yeah. Wait, did I already see this match? The Legion of Doom and Ahmed Johnson versus Farouk, Savio Vega, and Crush. I've seen this before. 5 minutes, 30 seconds. Tell me.
You have seen this before, but there are some good storyline reasons for this.
I legit thought I opened the wrong note.
Yeah, no, I've done that before. I actually did that with the with WCW we just did, and I was waiting for you to tell me what the first thing was so I could figure out if I had done that, or if I had to tell us, hey, we have to stop recording because I don't have the notes for this. Like, I genuinely was thinking that when we just did WCW. But we are all on the same page. And like you said, it's Legion of Doom and Ahmed versus Nation. And we have some storylines going through this. Savio and Crush don't really want to do the Nation salute anymore. Savio and Crush argue again, and Farouk gets upset at them. They respond by walking away from Farouk and letting him get jobbed out to Ahmed and Legion of Doom. And Ahmed hits the Pearl River Plunge and beats him clean. This match is a vehicle to show the dissension in the Nation. And I love it because we get one step closer to Nation Prime. And let me be clear, there is a Nation prior to Nation Prime, but we're getting there. This gets a B+ for me. I like it. I like what's going on with them.
And Nation Prime does not last all that long, which is wild too. It does not last very long at all. I think we'll have to do the math. I think these ones last longer than that one does, and it's insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, we got our King of the Ring. Well, I guess I got to spoil it because they make a whole thing about it.
Now no one's going to subscribe to the Patreon. $2 a month, by the way. I don't hear that.
It's kind of the whole point of him coming out. Hunter Helmsley and China come out to talk to Vince McMahon because he's the King of the Ring. There, I said it. Joseph, tell me about it.
Vin Man asked about the attack on Mankind at the end of the match last night, and Hunter says that Vin Man knows that a year ago he should have been King of the Ring and didn't because of Vince's politics. He says that he took his destiny in his own hands, and that's what happened last night, was him taking his destiny in his own hands.
He's shooting.
Yeah. He calls the ring his home. He says that anyone who wants him, the door is wide open. And then Mankind is on the Titantron and says, knock, knock. I want admission to your House of Pain and a rematch. And this is like the second week in a row that they've done this, where they have a wrestler say something and then something happens immediately that triggers the next thing. They did it with Sid last week in an expert way. This one's not quite as good, but it's still very good, only because he has to say knock, knock a few times because the audio hadn't piped through properly or something like that. But anyways, still really cool. They're doing some production. People kind of wonder why Kevin Dunn was Kevin Dunn for so long. It's because of things like this. Like, he is doing advancements in production that we have not seen with Raw right now. And that's really good. The problem is then he sticks around for 20 years and never gets better. And then he's also like a horrible person backstage, but that's beside the point. Yeah, absolutely, allegedly. Anyways, so he calls. I said, so knock, knock. I'd like admission to your House of Pain and a rematch. And Hunter says he doesn't deserve anything. China says Mankind should come down to the ring and kiss her ass. It's the first time we've ever heard China speak. Johnny Lawler has a particular cadence in the way that she speaks that unfortunately gets made fun of quite a bit. You hear that here. Mankind says it's your lucky day because I'm a good kisser. And he comes down and Hunter attacks him with the crown. Hunter leaves and he realizes he forgot the crown in the ring when he was leaving. So he turns around and Mankind grabs it and puts it on his head to the crowd's delight. It immediately falls off because it's all bent and out of shape now. This was supposed to be, I think, a major storyline, and then it gets run over due to some HBK stuff, which we will certainly go into. But on this night, it is quite entertaining what we're seeing. I'm giving it a B.
I wish they did more with this. I think this kind of ends it. There's not, I don't.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I love when he puts the messed up crown on his head. I wish that had become a thing where he just starts wearing it. There's just a really good angle here that they drop, right?
Yeah.
So we give WCW crap when they drop a good storyline. I'm gonna give WWF crap for dropping this. I feel like there was a good angle here.
Mm-hmm.
After that, though, we go into our European Championship match, where Davey Boy Smith versus well-known European Goldust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. No, you're not reading that. You're not reading that on the pod. You're not reading that chapter. Good Lord. 7 minutes, 30 seconds. Should we tell people what you're doing?
Yeah. Okay. So if you don't know, Davey Boy Smith's real life wife at this point is Diana Hart Smith. sister of Bret and Owen, and child of Stu and Helen. And in 2000, let's see if I can find it here. I don't see a date on this anywhere, but it's like 2002, somewhere around there. She decided to write a
I got you,
tell-all.
man.
2001 is when it came
2001.
out. Yeah. She decided to write a tell-all about her time in, wrestling. And we've certainly talked about her a number of times on the podcast. She seemingly doesn't have a whole lot of charisma, but Vince loves her. She's very attractive, and so Vince loves to put her on TV. And but she is with the Harts quite a bit, obviously, and obviously with her husband. And she wrote a tell-all that apparently I have not read this yet. This just came in. Apparently, it is. How do I describe this, Scott? Like it's scorched earth. Let's start with that.
It's a tell-all, as they
Yes,
would call it.
and
A very controversial tell-all
yeah.
where there are disputes in the
Mhm.
Hart family about how much of it is true.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of them deny that any of it is true because there's a lot of allegations of impropriety, criminal activity,
Yeah.
drug abuse, sexual assault, all kinds of horrible things.
Yeah.
We know some of it is true because Dynamite Kid, who is mentioned in the book, has said that some of the stuff that he is accused of is true.
Yeah.
So we don't know how much of it is a kernel of truth that has been extrapolated to sell books, or, i- if none of it is true, some of it is true, all of it is true. We don't know. But Diana Hart sat down and wrote a scathing book about the
Yeah.
Hart family. And once I told Joseph about it, he bought it. He just had to have it. Like
Yeah.
he found out about this book like 2 days ago, and it's already at his house.
Yeah. It literally, I was like, "Oh, I get paid tomorrow. I'm going to buy it." And my dog woke me up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I immediately went and I hit buy, and then I went and let my dog out of the house. So I immediately made sure I had it. We have not decided if we're gonna do anything with it on the pod. Certainly not on the standard podcast, but part of it is it legally got pulled off of shelves because I believe it's Martha sued
Yes.
over whatever the contents are. Again, I haven't read it, and after reading it, I might go, no, we're not going to do anything with this. So don't take this to the bank. But sued, and the publisher, which is a smaller publisher, actually went defunct in 2011. Was like, we're not going to deal with that, and they just pulled it. They just pulled the book. So
Yeah. Martha Hart, Owen Hart's wife,
yes,
who received a sizable chunk of change from WWF over them killing her husband.
deservedly so.
Uh,
Deserve that
Yeah.
change.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, she
Yeah.
probably deserved more, frankly.
Yes.
But she had a lot of money, and this publisher was like, "We ain't touching that. We're just pulling the book."
Yeah.
So you cannot buy a new copy. Joseph bought a used copy,
Mhm.
and we were just like, "Well, let's see what it says. Maybe there's some insights in here that are worth exploring, talking
Yeah.
about." Especially as we get into Owen's death, because that's going to be a subject of much discussion. And, we're gonna talk about it probably in great detail. It's one of the most infamous, controversial, tragic moments in wrestling history. So we try to get all the angles.
Yeah.
We try to get the facts.
I mean, think about it. We've at least referenced 3 books for sure on this podcast and pulled from them. You've mentioned a number of times Nitro by Guy Evans. That is actually
Good book.
quite supported by Eric Bischoff. So even the things that are sometimes negative about him, he supported the guy so much, had him help write another book. So there's that. Then obviously I mentioned, and I'm going to mention later on in the show, my real life in the cartoon world of wrestling by Bret Hart, Heartbreak and Triumph by Shawn Michaels. Mick Foley has if you've never read Mick Foley's books, they are phenomenal because they're Mick Foley. They are 100%. There's no, or what do they call it, Scott? A ghostwriter when you have someone who's helping out. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's none of that. It is him writing them, and they are superb because he is like, what Mick Foley looks like on the outside versus what he is on the inside are two very different people. And Mick Foley is and not only an incredibly intelligent man, but just a very insightful person. I would love to meet him and just like hang out and just talk. You know what I mean? Not to like fanboy, but just talk.
Nick,
yeah.
if you're listening, come on the pod.
Yeah.
Love to have you.
So
yeah, well, you've also, you're not giving yourself enough credit. You've also referenced Eric Bischoff's book, Controversy Creates Cash. You've talked about that
true.
before. We try to get as many primary sources as we can.
As
and we understand.
as for sure as when we get to kind of the Y2J happening, I'm for sure going to be pulling from Chris Jericho's first book. I can't remember what it's called. Something with spandex or like Lionheart or something like that. I read his first book. Came out when I was in high school. It's a phenomenal book. Chris Jericho's first book is phenomenal. Haven't read his other ones. But he talks about a lot of like his beginnings and stuff. And so I can't wait to talk about that book and everything. So yeah, the point of this podcast is to try to pull as much information and let you make the decision. Like, yeah, I have an opinion. Obviously, by now you know that I love Shawn Michaels. I don't like
Bret Hart hater.
I don't like Bret Hart as a person. Would love him in the ring. But like, yeah, we have opinions on this, but those don't have to be your opinions. And we will try to give you as much information as you can. And then you can formulate your own opinion. You don't have to agree with us. That's totally okay. So yeah, I'm excited to read this book. Cautiously excited because I read Scott the first paragraph and it
It
it's a
pulls no
lot.
punches.
Yes.
Yeah. I will also note that I own a copy and have read The Rock's book, his first one. I don't remember much about it because I read it in junior high, but I do remember that there was a chapter called The People's Puberty. And that was more information than 12, 11-year-old me really needed to know about The Rock's Johnson. But other than that, we got the European Championship match with Davey Boy Smith and Goldust.
We sure do.
Which is 7 minutes, 30 seconds. Tell me about it.
Goldust hits a DDT, which seems to be his new finisher, and he wins. But wait, referee Tim White realizes that Bulldog's foot was on the rope. Of course, we get the turnaround, and Bulldog ends up becoming victorious. It's a fun match. It's a very fun match between them. I don't know if this will become a rivalry. I can't remember. It certainly isn't memorable enough for me to think about. The main rivalry with a Hart member is Brian Pillman, but that's quite a few months down the line. So I don't know where this leaves us with Goldust. I do know it will start slowly leading to him actually being included into the Canadian Stampede match. So that'll be fun to look forward to. I gave this a B. It's fine. Hey, everybody. I actually just realized a huge blunder that I made while reviewing this match, which was Goldust versus Davey Boy Smith, aka British Bulldog. I actually caught it when I started editing the podcast, and I had to take screenshots and everything, and I was getting all that info. And I realized I somehow completely just overlooked the fact that Davey Boy actually tries to attack Goldust post-match and starts getting ready to swing a chair at Goldust. And Marlena steps between them, and she's pleading for help, and she's trying to make sure that he doesn't do this. And then Ken Shamrock, who's been on this kind of anti-bullying thing for the last few weeks, ever since Vader, he steps in, he runs in, and he takes care of Davey Boy. And this sets up for the future match where they're going to have the 5 Harts versus 5 members of the WWF, and Ken Shamrock will eventually become one of those members. This is setting that in motion. So sorry about missing it initially. I've just recorded this real quick. I'm going to throw it in. So it'll be a kind of weird cut. If you're listening to the audio version, that's why. If you're obviously watching the video, it'll probably make a little bit more sense. As you can see, I'm super disheveled. I wasn't expecting to have to record this. And then I went, oh crap, I made a huge mistake. But we all do. See you guys. Enjoy the rest of the show.
It's kind of moving a story along, even if it's hasn't really come together yet. After that, though, we got Doc Hendricks because there's apparently a disturbance inside the Nation of Domination's dressing room, and he's trying to get to the bottom of it. And Farouk and others come storming out. This isn't looking good for the Nation, is it, Joseph?
Doc runs over after Farouk storms out to Savio and Crush to see what all the hubbub is about. And they yell at him to leave. Farouk is in the ring, and he says the Nation is supposed to support him. He says Savio Vega, he found picking jalapeno poppers in the field. and brought
Good
him
Lord.
on. Yeah, I know, right? But it technically
I mean,
it was
it's
Razor
it's
Ramon who
ki
found him.
it's kind of a good line, but my God.
Yeah.
Uh,
He then goes on to say that Savio has stabbed him in the back and his ass is fired. He says Crush was idle and he took him to championship status, which never actually happened. He says Crush is also fired, and backstage, they are fuming. I remember Crush distinctly going, fired, fired, and it's hilarious. So they're fuming backstage. And interestingly enough, they'll kind of do their own stuff, which I think gives you more of an appreciation of Crush in the next coming weeks and months. So, we'll see. He then looks at all the men behind him. We got D'Lo, we got Clarence Mason, and we got some random lackeys. He's had some random lackeys every week. And he says to the lackeys, none of you have ever taken a bump. You're all fired. And Clarence Mason screams at them and kicks them out. It's important to note right here that PG-13, that was part of the Nation, was quietly dropped weeks ago after their match against Legion of Doom. So they aren't even here. They were just written off. They're gone. Farouk says there's only one other person that has to go from the Nation. Clarence Mason looks smug as D'Lo takes off his peepers and looks very concerned. Mason taunts D'Lo, and Farouk says, D'Lo, hold the rope open for Clarence. And Clarence can't believe it. Farouk says there will be a new Nation and that he wants to challenge the two people he hates the most next week in Ahmed and Taker. And I'm giving this an A for a couple reasons. One, I freaking hate Original Nation. I cannot stand it.
yes.
We are now a step closer to Nation Prime, but there is a nation between those two that we're going to get first. And we are very close to that. So I'm looking forward to where this is going. I think all the dead weight has been gotten rid of. We're going to get some more dead weight, rather large dead weight, to be honest, but we'll save that for another time. Right now, I'm being optimistic. I'm happy. I give this an A. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was all good. I really liked the D'Lo swerve, the D'Lo, get the rope. I thought that was a good line from Farouk, and it's getting us to the good nation. That only lasts 45 seconds, but I like it. Backstage, though, we see Mark Marrow quite upset with Sable. We can't really hear what's going on, but he's mad. He's animated. And I think I know because I saw her give a lap dance to a King of the Ring chair last week. And so I think I have a good idea what he's upset about. But that's just me. After that, we come back to the front.
Hold on,
okay,
real
go
quick.
ahead.
I just remembered because of that. They talk about how we'll hear from Mark Marrow. So much like WCW, who lied to their audience a number of times, they straight up lie about this because we don't hear from him.
We don't.
Yeah,
And
he's just.
I mean, and I'm tuning in to hear from Mark Marrow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what I'm tuning in for.
Yeah.
I want to hear from Mark Marrow because, I am concerned about his marriage. And after that, though, we go back to the front of the house and we get Paul E. Dangerously and Tommy Dreamer. They got tickets. They're here to watch the show. And it's totally unplanned and unscripted. They just happen to be there. After that, though, we got the Headbangers versus Phil Lafone and Doug Furnas, which I should mention, Joseph, since this brings me to the fact that we were asked a question a couple of weeks ago by a listener about factions and who we'd be and all of that. And you threw in a bunch of stipulations about how it had to be a wrestler born in July and all that kind of stuff that completely threw me off. And so you throw all these ESPN stats at me. I have an answer. My faction, I would be a Jeff Jarrett looking character with his stupid slit shirt thing, which I hate, but it'd be wonderful for a heel. Red, white, and blue, America. I'd be with British Bulldog because we'd put the allied powers back together. we're recreating that. And I'm going to have hear me out. I'm going to have Phil LaFawn and Doug Furness on my team too, because I like those guys. I think that they have talent. They just do nothing with them. Phil LaFawn is French Canadian. Doug Furness from Oklahoma, but I'm going to let that slide for the purposes of this. They're going to be French because that's the allies, America, Britain, France. We're the allies. And I'll just have Phil LaFawn do all his promos in French, and then Doug Furness will just go, "Oi," to everything. And it'll be fantastic. That's my faction. Anyways, Headbangers versus Phil LaFawn, Doug Furness. This one's 3 minutes, 38 seconds.
Yeah. LaFawn hits the worst splash I've ever seen, which is funny because I just said that last week about whatever his name was, Damien, whatever his name was, on Doug Furness on accident, and the Headbangers win. I gave this a C. It's nothing to write home about.
Don't besmirch my faction. All right, we're gonna have a feud here.
That was not intentional. I had wrote this forever ago. I didn't realize you were gonna bring that up right at that moment.
Well, I kind of feel like the fake splash kind of works because it's kind of a botch, right? He hits his teammate. Maybe it's kind of like a oh shit kind of thing. So it might have worked. Oh stuff thing because we're trying to swear less, so your children can listen to the pod. No one's children are listening, but if they want to, they can. Anyways, in the back we got Jerry Lawler, and he is with ECW quote unquote defector RVD, and they gonna put him in a match. You want to say anything about this?
Jerry says he can't believe rather, that they let that trash in the building, referring to the ECW guys. He says if they interfere, there will be hell to pay. Jerry is usually at least charismatic in his promos, but he is clearly sick here and he looks awful. Not his fault this time. Get to see.
All right. After that, we got hour number 2. And we got Stone Cold Steve Austin for a conversation with Vince McMahon in the ring. Joseph, tell me.
Vinman tells us about Austin interrupting Pillman's interview last night and says, I suppose you're proud of that. And Austin says, you're damn right I'm proud of it. And there ain't too many things that bring a smile to Steve Austin's face. But that's damn sure one of them. The only thing I'm sorry about is that toilet bowl wasn't full of a few contents, which I think you know what I'm referring to. Vinman wants to go to the match because he's a little disgusted with Austin.
I don't blame him.
And Steve Austin says, Vinman, who is disgusted by the reference to poo. Anyways, Steve Austin says, is that in this book?
I don't think that's in the book.
Steve Austin says, Brian Pillman came out last week and he thought he pulled a big surprise. Says Bret the Hitman Hart couldn't wrestle. He was afraid to wrestle and forced me to wrestle Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels and I got through last night, and the fact of the matter is, I'm here right now in living color. And Brian Pillman, last night I flushed your little face down the commode. Here in a few minutes, I'm going to kick butt up and down this ring. When I see fit, I'll hit you with the Stone Cold Stunner, pin you 1, 2, 3, and then carry your little rasp butt carcass back to the back, and then finish up with you. And there can't be nobody who can do anything about it. Vince then asked about Bret Hart challenging any 5 WWF wrestlers at Canadian Stampede. And Austin says, I'll be the first guy who will volunteer for that job because that's at the famous Calgary Stampede. They think they got a bunch of cowboys and horses and bulls and all kinds of crap like that. I'll tell you this, whether I got 4 people on my side or not, Stone Cold Steve Austin will stampede all of your butt by myself. Gorilla Monsoon made me find a tag team partner, which was Shawn Michaels. So I'm sure by the same token, he'll make me find 4 wrestlers. But let me tell them let me grill them on this, son. You get in my way this time, I'll beat your fat butt just like I would Bret Hart's. Steve Austin will be up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, beating the hell out of the Harts and anybody else that shows up, Brian Pillman too. And when it leads right up to it, Stu and Helen Hart or whoever else the Harts want to bring, I'll beat up the whole damn family, and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. Yeah, that gets an A+. It's fantastic. It's Stone Cold. He's on fire.
Another great promo. You have certainly used all of our swear words for the episode with that promo, but it was great. After that, though, we got Rob Van Dam versus Flash Funk. Poor Flash Funk. He ain't gonna win this one.
Nope.
4 minutes, 24 seconds.
Jerry the King Lawler comes down with Rob Van Dam, and Paul Heyman and Tommy Dreamer are incensed. Ringside, Vince McMahon actually plays on the fact that Jerry the King Lawler's voice is gone. And Jerry the King explains it's because of the mandible claw that he received last night and that he got an infection the following day, which honestly is really great storytelling. Jim Ross asks if there is any relation between Rob Van Dam and Jerry the King, which makes sense given Jerry's track record. But Jerry says no, he's the only person who's talented in extremely crappy wrestling. Rob Van Dam always has the greatest gear. I mean, it's fantastic. RVD wins with the split-legged moonsault, and then Paul Heyman charges Jerry the King Lawler. Tommy Dreamer actually tries to split the two apart, and WWF officials have to separate everybody because Tommy Dreamer and Rob Van Dam start fighting each other too. This will actually have a blow-off at an ECW pay-per-view. I don't remember which one it is, but I do have it marked in our Monday Night Wars calendar, which, yes, we do have. And we will cover that for the Patreon because this actually does have a moment that relates to the Monday Night Wars. So that'll be the one ECW pay-per-view we for sure cover. That being said, this gets a B. It's a lot of fun.
Not bad. And it really just kind of, after the poly dangerously Tommy Dreamer stuff, we go into our next match. We've got the Intercontinental Champion, Owen Hart, versus Psycho Sid for 4 minutes, 11 seconds.
Ken Shamrock joins us on commentary and is doing his bullying shtick about the Harts. If you remember, Ken Shamrock is very anti-bullying, and he says that the Harts that's pretty much all they're about. Ken Shamrock gets mad after Jim the Anvil Neidhart interferes with the match and ends up hitting him with a belly-to-belly. Sid takes advantage of this and hits the chokeslam on Owen for the win. Gets a B. It's a lot of fun. Too bad it's not for the title.
Yes. But also, again, not a bad match.
Yeah.
Then we got Sable out to model a Raw is War t-shirt. I do love that Raw is War t-shirt. But Mark Marrow does not care for it.
No.
Because he comes out with a curtain and covers Sable with it and drags her to the back. There seems to be trouble in paradise. After that, we've got more trouble in paradise because we've got the Mankind interview. And yeah, it's another good one.
Hold on, you said the Trouble in Paradise line like you were doing a news report, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
This is Dateline NBC, and
this is a tragedy.
In paradise.
There is tragedy befalling the Marrow household, and I'm very concerned because I like Mark Marrow. Long newsflash, they divorced, ladies and gentlemen. And Sable now is married to Brock Lesnar. Are they married or are they okay?
Been married since like 2004. Yeah,
it's been a while, but I like Mark Marrow, so I'm disappointed that Vince destroyed his marriage.
Yeah, and to be clear, real quick, in case anybody thinks there is no connection between the destruction of his marriage and Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar certainly got his own problems. No. That has nothing to do with it. That them two together ends up many years later. So.
No, it certainly from what I can tell, I've never heard anything negative about Mark Marrow. He seems like he's a pretty solid guy.
Yeah.
And Sable, I've never heard anything really negative about her too. It just seems like it became kind of a professional ego kind of thing where Sable got bigger than Mark, and maybe Mark didn't. Maybe Sable thought she was too big for him. Maybe Mark took exception to Sable being bigger than her. I don't know. It seems like it created problems.
Yeah.
After that, though, we've got more home life conversation. But this time with Mankind. Another interview. Tell me.
This is the fourth and final of the Mankind sit-down interviews. Before we throw to it, JR lets us know that he wishes He never did this, as he has never felt more helpless in his life. JR asks Mick about the venom towards Shawn Michaels. Mick Foley says that when Shawn is out there, they talk about his boyhood dream. But Foley had the same boyhood dream. Why then are they so different? He wants a lifetime of pain and suffering for all the other wrestlers, and that he would like to cause it so they can experience what he has. JR asks if he's ever been treated for multiple personality disorder, and immediately we see a shift in Foley. Foley says he doesn't believe in doctors. If there was something wrong with his mind, wouldn't he be the first to know? JR asks if it's time for Foley to accept responsibility for who he is and that he may have caused all these problems himself. Foley wants JR to do his job and stop this facade of journalistic integrity. He says JR could spread the truth, but he doesn't do it by telling people that mankind doesn't feel pain. He says, I feel like every other person, and punches his own face hard. Hard. See that? It hurts. He says he wakes up in the mornings and can't get up while his little boy begs for him to play ball, and he just can't. He talks about doctors injecting 12-inch needles into his spine so he can wrestle just one more day. I can't believe you sit here and ask me those questions. Do I bring it on myself? He punches his own face again. I haven't done a damn thing to you. All you've done to people is mislead them. And you let them think I'm having the time of my goddamn life when I'm in pain. Foley at this point is now standing over Ross. Don't you look at me with that smug look, and he swings at JR's hat. You make me sick. A man of integrity, I ought to smack you. He grabs JR and plants a mandible claw. We hear production crew members scream. Foley is in a frenzy, screaming as he has the mandible claw locked in. And then Foley slowly comes to his own senses and calls out to Jim Ross, calling him Jimmy, and says he's going to need some help as he looks genuinely concerned and scared about his own actions. And he slowly walks away as we fade to the standard broadcast. We now see JR back at commentary, and he says that he thinks that athletes should never put their hands on journalists, but does feel he bears a responsibility for his own for the questions that he asked. He then apologizes on air to Mankind. This is 4 weeks of perfection from Jim Ross and Mick Foley. It gets another A+.
Jim Ross attacked the news at 11. After that, we got Rockabilly and Bart Gunn. I guess, is this the end of the Smoking Guns? I don't know. Who cares? 2 minutes, 52 seconds.
Ross is trying to make a storyline of Cain and Abel between both men. I got brothers, so it's hard for me to hate Cain. Anyways, gang, this match is whatever. And Rockabilly wins with a swinging neck breaker. It also will lead to nothing. This has no bearing on anything. Match itself is fine. I gave it a C.
Backstage, a cameraman sneaks in to see what the Hart Foundation is doing and then gets the crap kicked out of him.
Mm-hmm. The Hart,
which leads to our match. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Brian Pillman.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, here we go. Tell me about it, Joseph.
Hart Foundation immediately attack Austin during his entrance. They don't wait at all. Mankind, of all people, runs down to help, and he goes into the ring and starts fighting Pillman. Austin comes to and is very confused as Mankind has taken his place. Pillman spends time trying to rip Mankind's mask and hair off. However, Mankind locks in the mandible claw to the crowd's delight. When this happens, the Harts attack Mankind. Let me be clear here. This has become a match. This is an actual, there is a ref with this match. The Harts attack Mankind, resulting in a DQ, and Austin limps down back into the ring to the rescue. Ken Shamrock runs in, flying in from behind to help the faces as well. They clear the ring. Austin is still a tad confused by Mankind, and the result is he just hits a stunner on Shamrock, which is hilarious. I gave this an A+. I had so much fun.
Yeah, well, this is kind of happening because Shawn...
I've got it all right here.
has some problems.
Mhm.
Shawn is starting to become a little unreliable because of his substance abuse issues.
Well, that's not what happens. That's not what
Okay.
happens. So what happens is because yes, let me pull back real quick. He does have substance abuse issues, and he will become very unreliable, but that's not actually why this happens. So we actually have a backstage fight right before this show went on air between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, which of course means that we have two accounts of the same fight. Bret's take from
Two
his
very
book.
different accounts.
Yes. Bret's take from his book, My Real Life in Cartoon World of Wrestling, is, quote, King of the Ring went down on June 8th, according to the new plan. The new plan obviously being that Bret Hart was no longer in a match with Shawn Michaels. They had to pivot. The next day, we are all supposed to be at Raw in Hartford. Shawn was nowhere to be found. I happened to mention to Jim that as soon as I saw Jim the Anvil Neidhart, as soon as I saw Shawn, I was going to straighten him out once and for all. I never thought Jim the Anvil Neidhart could be a voice of reason, but he got a worried look on his face and pleaded with me. Please, I just got back here. Don't do anything now. God, Bret, I need this job. Just forget about it. What could I say? I resigned myself to not beat
Stuff.
out of Shawn. At about 6 p.m., I went into the bathroom to gel my hair before going across the hall to tape interviews. I was surprised to see Shawn's reflection go by me in the mirror. I could see he was uptight, so I smiled and casually said, Hey, Shawn. He cut me off.
Frick.
You haven't talked to me in over a
Fricking.
fucking month. What makes you think I'm going to talk to you now? So far, the stories are actually pretty similar, and I will read Shawn's account, although I highly doubt the smiling and hey Shawn thing. But anyways, even though I had hair gel all over my hands, I was primed to go back to my original plan. But Shawn vanished through the doorway past Crush, who was lacing up his boots, and heard the whole thing. I set out to find Shawn, but he was gone. I paced around the backstage area until Owen, Davey, Jim, and Pillman came to find me. I know Shawn's watching from somewhere, waiting for me to leave this room, I said. I'll bet you the second I walk out here, he'll walk in. All his stuff is in here. Watch. I crossed the hall, walked into the interview room, and cracked open the door to peek back out into the hall. Shawn strode past me into the dressing room. He was bent over, fixing his boots when I marched straight up to him. I pushed him to his feet. You got something to say to me? He flicked a weak punch at me and missed. Balancing awkwardly on my good leg, I popped him in the chin, rocking him on his heels. He came for me, so I grabbed him by his long mane and pretended I was doing a hammer throw at the Olympics. I was dragging him around the room when a hysterical Pat and frantic Lawler ran in and jumped up on top of me. Unable to pry me off, Pat shouted for the other wrestlers to help, but Davey and Crush had no intention of saving Shawn. It was nothing but a scritch fight, really, but when we were finally separated, clumps of Shawn's precious hair fell from my hands. I blasted him. Don't
Frick.
with me or my family, you little.
Frick.
Shawn looked ready to burst into tears as he stomped across the hall to Vince's office, shouting loud enough for everyone to hear. Shawn quit, saying it was an unsafe work environment. Then he stormed off, slamming doors behind him. Vince looked like a jilted lover whose boy toy had up and left him. But he told me that that this had not only been inevitable, but it was long overdue, and that it was his fault for not dealing with Shawn sooner. He told me to take the night off. I felt silly to have come to blows over something so stupid. But while everything in wrestling was supposed to be bullshit, that bullshit was everything to me. Before Raw was off air, Vince was hyping the inside story of a backstage brawl between me and Shawn for sale to fans on his 800 number, but yeah. My scuffle with Shawn was the talk of the business. Meltzer wrote that I'd always been professional and questioned the reasoning behind Shawn's claim that he couldn't trust or work with the Hart Foundation, end quote. I included the Meltzer bit because I talked about it last week. Every time Bret Hart does something, all of a sudden Meltzer's reporting exactly what he says. But he didn't go reporting to Meltzer. Whatever. Anyways, this is Shawn's take on it. From his book, Heartbreak and Triumph. On June 9th, we had a television taping in Hartford. I was in the dressing room when he came up to me and said, I just want to say, I cut him off before he could finish. Don't talk to me. You haven't said a word to me in 3 weeks. If you can't talk to me for 3 weeks, I don't want to talk to you now. To be clear, he probably did cuss, but at this point, Shawn isn't cussing anymore, so he probably left that out. Also, so far, those two storylines are pretty accurate. Like, yeah, clearly Bret tried to talk to him, and then
They
Shawn.
align.
Yeah. I don't think Bret was used to people talking like that to him. About 5 minutes later, I was turning around to get some gear out of my bag, and I felt somebody push me from behind. I turned around, and Bret asked, "What's your effing problem?" "You," I yelled. He tried to punch me, but I peeled back and he missed. He pushed me again, and this time I stood up. He swung again and missed. The next thing I knew, he went for a double leg dive. I caught him around the upper body, and we went straight back through a piece of paneling. We had each other in front face locks when Pat Patterson and Davey Boy came over and grabbed us. Pat was yelling, "Come on, you guys." I let go, and Bret yanked a handful of my hair off my head. That hurt like heck, but I didn't retaliate. The fight was over. I went storming into Vince's office and told him, "I'm out of here. This is BS." I saw Aldo Montoya, who later wrestled here, is just incredible, and asked him if he'd give me a ride back to my hotel. He wasn't working that night, so he took me. I missed the show and flew home the next day. Vince sent my lawyer, Skip McCormick, who I had hired when I found out about Bret's contract, a letter stating that I violated my contract. Skip responded by writing a letter claiming that WWE, then F, had failed to provide a safe working environment. Skip told me that they were trying to blame everything on me, but once he wrote the letter, it would be back in their lap and they would ask me to come back. That's exactly what happened. In a few weeks, we had settled everything and I was back. As far as I know, nothing happened to Bret as a result of the fight. There is more to the Shawn coming back story, but that's not in discussion right now. We'll talk about that in a few weeks when we get there. So essentially, if you read these books side by side, I told this to Scott the other day, because it makes me laugh. When you read these books side by side, every single time that there's an event, whenever Shawn talks about it, it's like, you know, Bret did this stupid thing. I did this stupid thing. Here's how I retaliated. And then this whole thing exploded. And 9 times out of 10, he's like, "Yeah, I was an idiot." When you read Bret's version of every one of these things, it's like, Shawn was the problem. Shawn. And it's like, Jesus Christ, dude, like, get over yourself a little bit. So that's what happened. Shawn does quit the company at this point. He has left. And as far as he knows, he's not coming back. They then have to pivot, which is why in one night, I think we talked about this night, right? This is the Mankind and Mankind and Hunter have their thing. And then also at the end, Mankind's coming out and having a thing with the Harts because they need to pivot. And so what ends up happening, I teased this weeks ago, Shawn and Steve Austin are supposed to be tag team champions. And what we end up getting after Shawn leaves is honestly the best possible thing, much like when Hunter lost his shot as King of the Ring and we ended up giving it to Stone Cold, and now we got Stone Cold. Shawn is no longer going to be tag team champion, and they need someone to fill that void. And we have this Mankind angle that's hot, and people liking Mankind. And we're about to see Mankind go on a hell of a run. And so I'm excited for that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, if you don't perform, someone takes your spot. We learned that with Hunter. Hunter learned that, King of the Ring last year. Now he's back. Mankind's going to fill the spot that Shawn has replaced. We have a lot of fun with that, with the Stone Cold Mankind stuff. But I heard those two versions for the first time. This is the first time I'm hearing this, as Trump would do, right? This is the first time I'm hearing of this. And I have to say, just hearing those two versions, I believe the Shawn I'm not saying either version is 100% accurate, right?
Yeah.
I would not put it past Shawn to have swung first or anything like that. But the Shawn version seems much more believable than the Bret version. Because it's very clear they both hate each other right now. And I completely believe that Bret and Shawn are giving it as good as they're getting it. And the Bret version is just like, I'm just this bigger man. I'm just this pillar of perfection.
Yeah.
I do nothing wrong. Shawn was all in the wrong. And then I wiped the floor with him. Like, Shawn whiffed on a punch, and then my punch connected like Mike Tyson, and then I dragged him around the room by his hair and all this nonsense, right? Where, like I said, I don't put it Shawn says Bret swung first. I don't know if I believe that. I could totally put it past Shawn to swing first. That's who he is right now. It would not. But the fact that, he swung, I swung, we started kind of wrestling each other to the floor. Bret pulled out some of my hair, which does kind of make reference to the fact that he was pulling Shawn by the hair, which Bret does admit he did. And then also the fact that the only people there that were there to verify it are Bret's guys. Bulldog, which we know is Bret's guy because they're family.
Yeah.
But Crush is also
Yes.
backstage personally one of Bret's guys. And so it's just very convenient that they're the only ones there, or at least they're the only ones that Bret is pointing to as, ask them.
Yeah.
They know. Of course they know. They're Bret's their boy. They're gonna take Bret's side. Yeah. So
the only people who
sounds
actually that were there besides them, and both people talk about him. Well, actually, Shawn doesn't talk about Jerry. His account is actually incorrect in this. That Davey Boy pulled him off. He may have pulled him off, but Jerry was there. We know this because not only does Bret Hart talk about it, but Jim Cornette actually talks about it because Jim Cornette was in Vince's office when this happened. And Jerry was actually apparently taking a mud pie in the in the bathroom when this is going on.
Stinker.
Yeah, so he actually just heard it. He didn't see it, and he very quickly Jim Cornette hysterically says, historically, we'll never know if he wiped first or helped first. And it's like, it's a very Jim Cornette thing to say.
Yeah.
And so he does get up to go figure out what's going on, and he sees the scuffle now and is trying to pull them off. Pat Patterson 100% was there the whole time. I've never seen Pat Patterson talk about this. Jerry hasn't really talked about it, but also he didn't have a point of view to see it. And Jim Cornette, from his perspective, also did not have a point of view to see it. So he only tells about what he knows from the moment Shawn's, runs through the door, and he's got clumps of hair just like falling out. And Jim Cornette admittedly was tickled pink by this, but tried not to look at it that way. And when Shawn leaves, he actually allegedly grabbed some of the hair, put it in a Ziploc bag, and took it home. And that was his favorite possession forever until him and his wife got divorced. And I guess she has it somewhere. So there you go. Another fun little wrinkle to the story.
Imagine that being in the divorce. And I want Shawn's hair. But also, Jim Cornette didn't really like Shawn.
Yes.
So
didn't like Shawn, but also Jim Cornette, not really a liar. Like, that's the big thing about Jim Cornette. He very much will not like people, but he also is pretty honest about things. So yeah, I mean, and also he had every reason to not like Shawn. Like, I get why people don't like Shawn in 1997. There is no question about it. Like, it's obvious.
But I'm just saying, from the standpoint of people always saying, "Oh, why did he take the hair?" He took the hair for a laugh.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's kind of why. Like, he got some sick pleasure in Shawn's hair getting snatched out of his head because he didn't like the guy. So yeah, so that's why he had it. I don't know why his ex-wife wants it. That just might be weird because allegedly they're into some.
We won't go there. We won't go there.
Allegedly. But on that note, y'all can Google machine that yourself. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because that apparently does nothing. It was just Joseph. I'm still mad about that, man. You lied to me.
I didn't lie to you.
Bye, everybody.